Wow. It's a bold move out of you.
Can you
Oh,
hear me?
oh wow. I wasn't ready.
How's the audio on this?
It's great.
It's great.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah, I will in a second.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get these headphones on here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was not expecting this.
Ah, yes. Happy Halloween.
Good Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, Geeks Worldwide Radio, the Dork Shared Universe, proudly presents to you the greatest, spookiest podcasting team in the world. He's the Fry Guy, Nick Friar. I am Steve. Just kidding. It's me, Backcracker Dr. Joe. And we are the TLDR Comic Book Club. Baby, Nicholas, my guy, how's it going?
I am just splendid. I gotta say, I was not prepared for that.
Ugh.
See, Joe, for those who are just listening, I saw Joe take off his headphones, and I'm like, all right, like the audio didn't take that long to. I mean, the streaming didn't take that long to get going, but all right, it paid off there. Okay, well done, sir. Was
Thank
not
you.
prepared. You laid the groundwork too, because I found out that your daughter was also a Minecraft character for Halloween just before the show, and then you go and pull that out. I should have seen it coming.
I'm
Didn't
gonna tell you, I got a lot of fucking street cred out there today. I'm walking around. Hey, Steve! Look, it's Steve. Hey, it's Steve. Right?
nice.
I earned my stripes today. How you doing, Nicholas?
I am just splendid, and I am ready to do our final set of spooky books. Not that you and I won't do horror books outside of October, because I know a lot of people like to watch stuff exclusively during spooky season. Maybe a little bit, before October and late September. But when it comes to reading horror stuff, you and I, it's a year-round thing for us. We just like to really highlight it this time of year.
Oh yeah. We like to dig. And now I want to ask you a question. You're gonna see the dichotomy between the two of us. What was the spookiest, scariest movie you watched this Halloween?
Oh shoot! We got a long list.
Just give me one.
Rewatch.
Give me the most. Give me the
It's
scariest
Insidious
one.
might have been it.
Yeah, ask me.
What's the scariest movie you watched this Halloween?
The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, there's I just watched Sinister for the first time. I'd seen Insidious
Fuck off.
before, but oh yeah, dude, there's some there's some just looking at the list. Oh, you know what though? The show Haunting of Hill House, which I can't wait to listen to Dork's conversation about the fall of the House of Usher, because it's directed by the same guy, and really enjoyed the show. And I know they're big fans of his work too. So I can't wait to listen to that. But yeah, a lot of scary stuff, but some things not quite as scary too. So mixed in Keanu Reeves' Constantine, which
Uh-huh.
is has some imagery, but not scary, and not necessarily the best interpretation of Constantine, but I still enjoy it. But yeah, yeah.
So, to kind of piggyback off that, Dork had tweeted out earlier today 3 questions: favorite scary movie, favorite Halloween candy. You damn right, I'm the man quiz. Let's fucking go. And then your favorite Halloween costume. So, for me, believe it or not, my favorite scary movie is Saw, because that
Oh,
one resonated. It's probably maybe the last. Well, no, we attempted to watch. Megan and I attempted once to watch. I was telling this before on Strangers. We made it 5 minutes and said no, fuck that,
no way, dude.
no way. But yeah, Saw. Because I remember watching that, and the ending just completely fucked me up. Favorite Halloween candy, or just in general, is peanut M&Ms. And then when I was 6, when I was Violet's age, I was Superman, and I'll have to send you a picture
Okay.
of my costume. It was A, adorable, and B, ghetto as shit. But man, I fucking loved it.
Favorite horror movie. I've started to see a lot more over the years. I really like The Conjuring a lot. I mean, that was a big one for me. 28 days later and 28 weeks later, that
Oh,
franchise I love.
28 days. That would have to actually be my favorite. That movie
Yeah.
fucking rocks.
Yeah, I'm a huge Killian Murphy's probably my favorite actor out there now at this
Yeah.
point, just between everything that I've seen from him over the years. But yeah, that was a big one. Even before I was like a big Killian Murphy fan, and then candy. M and M's are generally my favorite too. I mean, I like crispy ones a lot more now, but peanut butter has always been peanut M and M's. Excuse me, not peanut butter. Have largely been my favorites over the years. But Twix is
Oh,
been big this year for me.
Twix fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, they fuck.
and then
No other way to put it.
Favorite Halloween costume for me, it's tough. I was Eddie Munson from Stranger Things last year, and I really love that. I'm actually rocking
Right.
the same guitar pick necklace from that costume last year while I wear my Constantine shirt. But I would probably say outside of that, from my childhood, it was when I was Jason, the Red Ranger from
Oh,
Power Rangers. I mean, that Power
nice.
Rangers were my shit back in the day. More than anything else, and I think in the DSG, that's a pretty important IP. But yes, so we got one more round of spooky books for spooky season. But again, we'll probably have some point down the line. And also we may or may not, we don't know. Things pop up. Have a Friar side chat at some point down the line. Well, at some point again this year, I would think. But the only way you can find those is if you listen to our audio channel. So make sure you go and subscribe on there. That's Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, SoundCloud, Amazon, Pocket Cast, you name it, you can find us there. If you don't, for some reason, you find us on Twitter or on our YouTube page or on Doc's Twitch stream, let us know that, because I know sometimes people prefer that and you stumble upon us on our streams. But listen there, that and subscribe there. Leave a 5-star rating review on Apple if you listen to us there. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of Backcracker. Anywhere else, leave the highest rating and review that you can, please. But yeah, subscribe there because that's how you get those episodes delivered right to your listening device, nice and easy. You'll see it before a tweet at like 7:15 or whatever it is goes out in the morning, makes it nice and easy for you. But we do not have a Fireside chat for you guys this week. We have some mainline shit this week, Joe. Let's catch up though on what we've been reading since we last convened. What do you got for me?
We might hit a fucking trade before the year ends, my friend. Issue 88 of
Yeah, we
TLDR
might.
coming at
I'm
you.
hoping. I'm hopeful.
Right? Oh man, that'd be fucking something else. So a couple of books I read this week. Gunslinger Spawn, absolutely tremendous. Detective Comics, I was an issue behind, so that was issue, I believe, 1075.
Mhm.
So the last several issues of Detective Comics have had a different artist for each book. So 1075 was Francesco Francavilla,
Mhm.
which was tremendous. But going forward, and I'm going to talk about this in just a moment.
Yeah.
There's a new artist settling in, so we'll get to that. But a book I really wanted to touch on real quick in catching up was IDW's Dark Spaces Dungeon, written by Scott Snyder and art by Hayden Sherman, and fucking excellent. Fucking excellent. This is a absolutely tremendous psychological thriller, horror, serial killer. Like this is everything that's in my fucking wheelhouse. And I read a
Nice.
couple books like that this week. Well, a number one that we'll touch on later, but this was just some really, really like the build to this. Like we talk about it all the time with Scott Snyder. I'm a broken record, but he just has such a great way at layering his storytelling and just
Mhm.
kind of throwing the things, threads out there. And then when he ties them all together, like, and so like you see this coming, like it's like, well, I shouldn't say you see it coming, but like once you kind of hit the climax of the issue and then the way it ends, you go, fuck, 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 fuck. Yes. Holy shit. You know you're gonna, I mean, it's a 4 or 5 issue story, I believe. You know it's gonna be, it's just the way he's setting it up, the antagonist, the whole premise of it, where you have this sort of, I wouldn't even call it a serial killer, it's a serial kidnapper, and he has these dungeons across the United States. You don't know how many people, you don't know if there's people still in these dungeons, but the characters you're introduced to, that typical psychological thriller of like, oh shit, there's someone out there and my family could be at risk, and I've got like a little, oh man, it was just so fucking good, man. I
Yeah.
can't wait to read this and talk about it so that you can read it, because this is right up your alley, right up Rich Keefe's alley as well.
Yeah, and this is one too that I think we saw Scott tweet about it, and he said this is like his. I don't know if he said his best horror or his scariest horror. I can't remember the exact word that he used. I
It's
think scariest.
it's excellent, and not only is it like from a storytelling perspective excellent. We've talked about Hayden Sherman's art a ton, right?
Mhm.
This is his best work.
Hmm.
His best work, because we always talk about Hayden Sherman, and he's got this sort of sketchiness to his art.
Yeah.
And each time one of his books has come out, it's gotten a little bit more and more refined. It still has that classic Hayden Sherman look to it,
Mhm.
but there's something very refined about it too. Excellent, excellent stuff.
Nice. Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good catching up list there. But I will say I'll put mine up against yours because I got some good shit in here. So Rumpus Room issue 2 from AWA Studios, so good. Yeah, absolutely delivered on in the second issue after a kick-ass first one. The Schlub issue 3 from friend of the show Ryan Stegman and company. Then a couple of Mark Millar joints. Big Game issue 4, which
I
is the
gotta,
penultimate issue. Yeah.
I still have to read this one.
Oh yeah, it's I mean it's an amazing event. I've really enjoyed it. And then we also got the Magic Order Volume 4, which I had been reading that going along. When like because I caught up on it. I was behind on the Magic Order. But I somehow fell behind accidentally in the course of things. So I ended up picking up the trade when it came out fairly recently and just I blew through that over the week. And again, I'd read some of it already, but I still went back and read it all. Magic Order might be, I really got to sit and think about it, but it might be my favorite Mark Millar story. Like I absolutely love it. He's done an outstanding job. Cordelia is an amazing character, and there are so many others around it, and all the problems. It's an interesting commentary. So I've talked about that on the show at length. So go back and listen to that if you want to hear a little bit more about the Magic Order. But there are 4 volumes now. So for those of you who like to trade weight, this is a great one for you to go get in on because you can breeze through 4 volumes of this sucker. And honestly, I wouldn't be stunned. Like if this, you know what, I could absolutely blow through all 4 of these in a weekend. If I didn't have to do all our prep that we do for reading all these other books and stuff like that over a weekend, I could absolutely blow through that. It's that freaking good. So definitely worth picking that up if you haven't already. But enough about what we've been catching up on. What do we got new coming out? Speaking of trades this week, Joe.
So it was a very light week this week in comics in general across the board. No real significant trades from Marvel. From DC, we have Batman Gotham by Gaslight, the extended edition. If you haven't read this, do it. It's excellent. The animated movie is also really, really good. We have so Justice League of America, JSA, Virtue, and Vice. And then from IDW, we have TMNT, the IDW Collection, Volume 3. And then we have Breath of Shadows, written by Rich Dueck with art by Alex Cormack. And then from Dark Horse, we have Powers, Volume 5, Star Wars, The High Republic Adventures, The Monster of Temple Peak, and Other Stories, which then takes us to the floppies, the single issues, dropping this week.
Mm.
Kicking off with Marvel, we have X-Men 28, Venom issue 27, The Avengers issue 7, Star Wars issue 40, Scarlet Witch issue 10, Ultimate Universe issue 1, Doctor Strange number 9, Spider Boy number 1, Magneto number 4. It's Jeff, the Jeff verse issue 1, and then a book you want to talk about here, Nicholas, White Widow number 1.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm generally interested in Yelena Belova after the Black Widow movie. I mean, as much as I thought Scarlett Johansson did a good job and everything, I do think that she was outshined by Florence Pugh in her Yelena Belova. I mean, there were a couple other characters that did a good job in there too, but she really stole the show. And then also writing this series is Sarah Gailey, and we're familiar with their work. You talked about Eat the Rich a while back. And then also, I heard about Sarah Gailey before that because they wrote The Echo Wife, which is a book that my wife read and really, really enjoyed. So for those of you out there who I think that's a psych thriller, but anyways, whatever genre that is, she really enjoyed it. I know the premise of that a little bit, but I don't want to get into that. I want to talk about White Widow, which is drawn by Alessandro Miracolo, with colors by Matt Milla, and then the letters by Travis Lanham. So the biggest thing for me going into this is, okay, obviously I want the art to look good. It does. Definitely like the Marvel style of what we kind of see across those books. But the biggest thing is, how does Sarah Gailey write Yelena Belova? How is this character's voice? And honestly, I'm not as familiar with the White Widow beyond what we've got, like beyond like what we had previous to Florence Pugh's portrayal. Now, and like I've seen her in stuff since then and have enjoyed her, and I feel like it's a similar voice. So again, I don't know if that was taken from Florence Pugh or if that's what the character was always like. But either way, I kind of am hoping for that voice to still be present here, and that was absolutely the case. And that is enough for me to want to come back and give this series more of a chance going forward. By and large, it's like a grounded story, and it's interesting too, where you have Yelena working as much as she is doing some level of field work. She's more like a consultant, kind of advisor, teacher sort of individual for like contract, killers. So it's a little bit different. It does have like it has like fish out of water. Maybe that's not the right word, but we're taking her out of her normal element where she's like living in like a suburban town, and then she's going and doing this as like as a teacher. So it's an interesting mix when it comes to the plot and the backdrop. But again, the big thing for me is Sarah Gailey knows this character's voice, and that's going to be enough for me to go back and read the second issue.
Nice. Love that. Love that. Love that.
Then from DC, we got Batcat Gotham War, Scorched Earth issue 1, Spirit World issue 1, Supergirl special issue 1, Return of Superman 30th anniversary special issue 1. But the big one, Joe, is the one that you want to talk about, Detective Comics 1076.
Yeah, real quick. The 30th anniversary of Return of the Superman makes me feel old as fuck.
Well,
I remember buying that in the comic book store, right? And it came in the white wrap there. Oh man. But anyways, yes, Detective Comics 1076, written by Rom V, with now and foreseeable future artist Jason Sean Alexander.
yeah.
And man, like, it's DC, a lot of comics when you read them, right? Like you read you get through the first 2 pages and then you get, the writer, the artist, the colorist, the letter, you get all that information, and you go on DC, it's always at the end, right? Because they always have that second little story, at least with Detective Comics in there.
Right.
And so I'm like, I know this fucking artist, right? And I'm looking at it because I remember the last one being, Francisco Francavilla, and I noticed that I know this artist, and I'm having a fucking senior moment, and then it fucking hits me. And I go, oh fuck, I forgot about
Yeah.
the news. And so you're reading this story, and then the art is Jason's art is absolutely fantastic. And dare I say, I fucking love Rom V's take on Batman. This whole operatic, vibe and tone to the storytelling with Batman, since he's taken over. It's we praise writers for their understanding of the character, right? Or of characters in general, right? My chip with Daredevil, Scott's run with Batman, all that, right? What I love about Rom V's run with Batman and Detective Comics is that it's not so much solely about understanding who Bruce Wayne is or who Batman is. It's really about what he's telling is his story of Gotham, and going back to its roots. And we get a character that we're a familiar character that we haven't seen in a while, introduced into this story, which was excellent. But just the tone, the feel, the look, all the moving pieces and parts of the storytelling. This is really a whole story that he's telling. It is an opera, right? That you're reading there. So I love that because it's not just about like, okay, this is a Bruce Wayne story, or this is a Batman story, or this is a Batman's Rogues story. It really is just this wonderful story being told in all these acts and all these different parts. And you throw Sean's art into it, and it's got this really great gothic feel to it that I absolutely love. So, if like Detective Comics, Action Comics, it's a weird thing because it's always kind of changing. You get different writers on there doing different runs, and you could have a bunch of different stories going on, at once. And so, but if you haven't been reading Detective Comics, I would go back. I would try and get your hands on whatever. I can't remember what issue it was that Rom took over. Just read it from there. right? You can read it from there, and it's like starting from scratch. You don't need to read 1,000 whatever issues that they came before it to sort of know what's going on. But this is just a really great Batman, Gotham, history of Gotham, just great gothic story that he's been telling, and I can't recommend it enough. Absolutely excellent.
That detail about not being caught up on detective is huge, of course, for anybody. But the other thing too that I wanted to know is that your praise is not at all an outlier in this. I keep seeing people talking about how awesome Rom V's Detective Comics run has been so far, and it's really cool. Like, and again, like how it's very different. I haven't read Detective in I don't know how long, so I got to get in on this mix too, because it sounds like I'm really missing out. This sounds like it's very much in my queue zone for sure.
Yeah, I had never read Detective Comics like as a series. It was right after Future State ended and Mariko Tamaki
Mm,
and Dan Mora had taken over writing it,
right,
right.
yeah. What a
And then
pair.
right, oh, it was I was so bummed out when their run ended. Dan had left the
I
series a little
remember.
bit earlier, sooner than Mariko Tamaki did, but what I loved about that, it was more of a Bat family story than it was a Batman story. And then I can't remember, who kind of filled in between, but I just kept reading, and then Rom took over, and it might have been Joshua Williamson, I'm not sure, but then Rom took over, and bang, it's been fucking stellar.
Yeah, I don't remember. I feel maybe might have been Cy Spurrier that did it. I feel like he did
He might have
some,
done some stories, but I think it
but
was Joshua Williamson.
yeah,
I
and
could be
yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, maybe you could you're the one reading it, so you would know better than I would. But yeah, so awesome stuff from Detective Comics. AWA, the book that we have out this week is a number one issue, Joe. Red Light issue one, which you forgot you called dibs on it. Could have stolen it from you, but I am the bigger man here,
Well,
literally and figuratively.
I called so I forgot I called dibs, but then I recalled dibs before you had a chance to call dibs. So it wouldn't have worked out anyways. I still would have beaten you to the punch. But um
That's just
man, this is a book they've pun intended teasing for some time. And
yeah,
this is
yeah, yeah.
and this is not the only naughty book that AWA has put out this year, but in general, I think was it last year or the year before they came out with Casual Fling, which I need to go back and read. I didn't read that one, and I probably should have. But we had Hit Me, and now we've got this. So, man,
Well, Trojan was
and
along
and
like
and
the
even Trojan too, right? Because there's definitely some Trojan vibes to this, but this is written by Sarah Cho with art by Priscilla Patrides, who also was the artist on Hit Me. And like the thing with Trojan, right? It was sort of this fantasy story that also dealt with the dark web and the seedy underbelly of that. And this is not taking place in a fantasy world. This is definitely more of a sci-fi world.
mm,
Like it's like if you were to take Blade Runner and mix it with the dark web aspect of Trojan, that's sort of what you get here with Red Light. And Priscilla's art is, man, she's a hell of an artist. She really is. And like there's a lot of naughtiness, in this, but like the colors, just the lines and everything, how it's drawn, like she knows like how to capture the mood and the setting, whether you're dealing with something that is erotic or violent, or sometimes a combination of both, right? She really kind of hits the nail on the head. But the story in and of itself is fantastic. And the villain, who goes by the name Mister, um
just
he's a
Mister.
just Mister.
You mean like my coffee mug? Interesting. Hmm.
Oh yeah, how cute. You've been
Hmm.
married for what, 5 minutes? Get the fuck out of here.
My, the maid of honor bought this for us, like when we got
Oh,
engaged.
that is very nice.
You asshole.
Just want to bust your chops.
Now it's her. Now first the photographers. Now she's gonna hate you. Just doesn't end.
Well, I get you. Let's not go there.
It's great. I don't know. The priest doesn't. Hopefully, he doesn't follow us on Instagram.
Oh, Padre. but but anyway, but the storytelling, is excellent. You're setting up, Sarah Cho is really setting up something sinister here. And again, it's got sort of that Blade Runner vibe to it, which I really love. So this was excellent. And yeah, this is not a book I would keep lying around, A, because of the cover art, but B, also the interiors. This is definitely, more of a mature book, but this is absolutely excellent. Everything that's set up, where the first issue ends, where it's going to go is going to be a fun ride. Pun intended.
Yeah, I when this got announced, I don't know. I don't know if there are plenty of times where I see a book's announced before you and I don't call dibs. I'm like, "Ooh, this looks good," and I really should do it more often. I don't know if this was one of those times, but I will say it was one of those times where you called dibs, and I was like, "Fucking asshole, my god!" Like, come on, dude. But
We
yeah,
also got to set like a dibs limit too, right?
oh no, yeah. Gee, I wonder who fucking brought that up. Looking at our goddamn list, but yes, no, but in all seriousness, I saw that and I was like, this is like the third one I think you've done where I'm like, I don't like that. I'm gonna have to sit this one out for a little while. It was World Tree, Local Man, and then and now Red Light. I'm just like this. This looks like it's gonna be like it's different from a lot of things that we've seen. Like very, very, very unique. So
Yeah.
so yeah, glad to hear that it's off to a good start. What do we got?
I was gonna say Jeff Deckel's cover, for the main cover is also fucking excellent. The AWA doesn't have a tendency to have a ton of covers.
Hmm.
They've got some good alternate covers here, but the main cover here, it's fucking gorgeous.
Nice, nice. Let's see. What do we have from Boom?
From Boom, we have Ghostlore, issue 6, which you have been reading. And surprise, surprise, you will be talking about in just a few moments. We have Ranger Academy issue 2, Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer issue 4, and Boom number 1. It's a rule. Everybody knows it. You read it. The space between issue 1, gotta say, wasn't my cup of tea.
Okay, I thought I saw it and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna give this one a look. I know we did uh what the hell was the one from last week? Last week there was a number one that we both read and we really liked it, but
Yeah.
I'm good. Hey, so got it. Good to know. Not your cup
I
of tea.
mean, I would give it a read. But for me, it was just like, okay, if you read it, you'll understand what I say. It was a little heavy-handed,
Mm,
a little predict. It had a pacing problem,
got it.
really. I think, but I say that with the caveat, give it a read because you might like it, but for me, like, it just missed the mark.
Okay, good to know. And Slow Burn was the book I was thinking for
Oh,
from last
so
week.
excellent.
Yes, we had Slow Burn and New Burnout in the same week. It was interesting. I'm sure it was a coordinated attack from two different companies. Anyways, from Dark Horse, we got Star Wars Hyperspace Stories issue 10, which it looks like it's the what's the clone misfit gang? I forget what that group is called. You know who I'm talking
The
about,
Bad
right?
Batch.
Bad Batch, thank you. That looks like they're on the cover of that issue. That issue, probably the focus there. Usagi Ajimbo, Ice and Snow issue 2, which you are reading. Masters of the Universe, Forge of Destiny issue 3. The Midnight Show issue 2, Cullen, which is by Cullen, but I have dibs on this one.
Do you?
Yep, it's all right. It's in their doc. Yep.
Okay, good. Because
Yes.
I was like, why didn't it has been a reason why I didn't read the first issue? Because like this is a Cullen Bunn book, so now I know why I didn't read it.
Bingo. Then you are reading Tear Us Apart issue 3, which you have dibs on this one. And when I saw this was the one I was like, ooh, like this is cool, but I think it's cool, but I'm like I doubted myself a little bit. And then you came in with dibs out of nowhere. I was like, damn, like I had every opportunity to take this one from Joe.
So I was about to undibs it, and then I
after
read
the
issue
second
3, and then I read issue 3, redibs.
Yeah, okay.
Issue 3, like again, like, it was the way issue 3 ended. I go, okay, I'm back in. Because I was
Nice.
about to be like, okay, I'm undibsing it, but it was the end.
Wow.
It's supposed to
Sure.
fucking roller coaster, man.
Okay, nice. That's interesting to hear. Stranger Things, The Voyage, issue 1, and then another number 1 that we have from Dark Horse, which is a Comixology original. We've talked about these a lot, from Scott Snyder. This one is with Dan Panosian, who's also a friend of the show. Canary, issue 1, letters by Richard Starkings and Tyler Smith. But I will say this is not just issue 1. This is issue 1 and 2 from Comixology. Now, I have not talked about this book at length on the show. I will talk about this book at length on the show. The final issue of this series is not out yet on Comixology, which is the first time we're seeing this as one of the Scott Tober books. So that is why I want to wait till it's completely finished. But part of me is wondering if they're gonna we're not gonna get the 6th issue until it's out in hard copy form. Which, hey, if that's what it is, it's what it is. But that's where we're at on that front. As for Canary issue 1 that is out now, I absolutely love everything about this series so far. Panosian's artwork, man, it is perfect for the Wild West. It really is. Like, and I'm not saying he's obviously not doesn't need to be pigeonholed to that, but I mean, it's just like in his colors too. He does a great job of making everything feel so friggin' dusty all the time. It's just so spot on. It feels like True Grit, honestly. So this is set in Utah Territory, 1891, and we have this main character who's a fictional character in a way in his own world because he's in dime novels, but at the same time he's very much a real character and I mean a real person within this world. I'm trying to find his name. I had it somewhere, but it's Marshall Holt. Um, but he's done a lot. Now he's running into a problem that's bringing him back to his first real big case that he had to undertake, and it was a very traumatic experience. And it's not just like, oh, I'm coming back into all this stuff. It's like I'm hearing like this bad thing happened and that bad thing happened. It's like a woman killed her children with their hatchet because they laughed too much. An old lady burned down a theater because she didn't like the play. Like, this is the kind of weird stuff that's going on right now, and it's all bringing him back to Canary, which is there's a whole lot there. You'll read that, you'll figure it out when you read the issue, but it is awesome stuff. I can't recommend it enough to check out Canary.
Love that. Yeah, I can't wait to read this one.
Yeah, I hate that I'm making you wait. Unfortunately, at some point, I mean, maybe I don't know, but just you pick it up and then just wait a little longer. I guess
it's not like I haven't made you wait.
Yes, this is true. From IDW, we got Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons, issue 5, Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, The Scorpius Run, issue 3, My Little Pony 18. And then from Skybound, of course, Image, we have The Walking Dead Deluxe issue 76. From Vault, I'm just going to take us through the rest of these here, Joe, real quick. We got The Nasty issue 4, which, of course, my friend of the show, John Lees. Unnatural Order issue 1, and Sainted Love issue 2. From Titan, we got Heat Seeker, a Gun Honey series issue 4, which you are reading. Ablaze, Travel to Mars issue 9. Almost Dead issue 1. And then Dynamite, we got Gargoyles, Dark Ages issue 4. Savage Red Sonja issue 1, which is by a friend of the show, Dan Panosian, which I plan to check that out. He's been doing I think I saw a Conan cover from him, and he's doing Panosian does some awesome shit. Alice Copper issue 2 and Victory issue 5.
Cooper. That's a typo. I'm Ron Burgundy.
I thought it would be Cooper, but now I trusted you, which is
don't ever trust me.
Well, I trust you to at least take us through Image. Can you do that?
Wildly white, Jesus Christ, light week from Image this week. I was actually kind of stunned. It was nice because Marvel didn't have a ton of books, so it saved me from typing a ton, which was nice. But we had King Spawn issue 27, which was fucking epic. There were some panels in here by Javier Fernandez where it was just Spawn with a white background, which I thought was stunning. There was just some very simplistic but just stunning panels that he did in this issue. The Sacrificers issue 4, that's the fucking bird book. No,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. You know what? It's very different world, and there's a whole lot else going on. But like, there's a thread between this and Rumpus Room that is very similar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's even more terrifying. Let's see. Untold Stories of I Hate Fairyland issue 5, and then there's 2 books that we want to discuss. I will lead things off, Nicholas, with let's see. With the number 1 that came out this week. This is written by Simon Kudransky. This is Blood Commandment issue 1.
Yeah.
And this is a book that looks like you read as well.
Yes, sir.
I had recommended this to Rich Keefe immediately, because this book is, I mean, it's like, what? Oh man, I wish this book had come out sooner so we could have talked about it more during Dorktober. This was just, I think everything about this book to me was excellent. His artwork is excellent. It's spooky. It's horrific. It was absolutely tremendous. This book has fucking. This is a book that I think, if we remember, we will definitely be talking about it next year for potential book of the year.
Yeah, Kudransky is like, when we talk about like the elite artists, elite horror artists out there, Kudransky is right in that conversation. There's no two ways about it. I mean, and I know he's someone I feel like I haven't seen as much. I know there's the was it Lonesome Days, Savage Night, I think was from TKO, I think was my introduction to him. And then he's something epic, and then he's done some stuff over with Rodney in the Philadelphia universe. So I think it was for Nita Hawes. But either way, he's very, very talented artist. And also, like, with his work, that I feel like with quite a bit of his work, I don't remember if it was the case with Rodney, but he doesn't have a lot of color in his work, which I do find interesting. It gives you a very distinct aesthetic, and then his artwork is very, like, he's very, very talented. So but yeah, he's some really good stuff. And yeah, the Blood Commandment issue 1 was very, very fucking creepy.
And just the way it was paced too, it was great. And because you have this dynamic between the father and the son, and shit just gets more and more and more like, well, why is the father being shifted? Because the father seems like a very good father, a very understanding father, and you have a 15-year-old son who's full of questions, and it's just like, you could tell like something shady's going on here, but you don't know quite what it is. And then the way it ends, you're just like, fuck. Oh, this just opened up a whole other can of worms now.
Yeah.
So this book, it was paced well. The art is fantastic. It's dark. It's got survival aspects to it. It's got horror aspects to it. It's got thriller aspects to it. It's just, this is hands down a tremendous first issue.
Yeah, and it also, like, if you really enjoy, like, obviously we all like, all of us who read comics enjoy the art, and I think that, like, Simon Kudransky is an interesting experience that everybody should, like, check out at least once, because especially if you like horror, because this is someone I can see being like everybody's, like, I can see him being someone's favorite artist. Like, he has a very distinct and very polished and powerful style for sure.
Yeah.
And then the last one that we have before we get into the books we want to review. Holy crap! Look where the time went, Joe. It's yeah. Anyways, No One, issue 6, of course, by a friend of the show, Kyle Higgins. Along with Brian Bucalato, who I would like to get on the show at some point because he did some pretty awesome stuff. And then Geraldo Borges is the artist here. And this is the one, this issue does the best job of plugging the podcast that of any of them. And again, like, you don't necessarily have to be listening to the podcast to enjoy No One. At the same time, like, if you like No One, you need to be listening to the podcast. It just enhances the experiences so much. And here, like, it was such a, like, from listening to what happened in the previous podcast episode to then watching here, it had the greatest impact. Like, it had an actual impact on the story. You can still read it and enjoy it and it not be an issue, as long as you know the podcast existed, which you should. If you're reading it, you don't even need, like, forget the social media stuff. But I absolutely loved this issue. This was my favorite issue so far, especially because like Julia Page in the course of it all, it's just like what happened to her in that last recording to where things are now. It's like she was fucking right. And not only that, there's other stuff that goes on with no one in this issue that like happens later on in the story that's like not even the main thing. So it all ties together really well. So this is no like without question my absolute favorite issue of this series so far, and I've been loving it from the jump.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%, and I can't wait to listen to the podcast on this
Yeah.
one. And this
How
one,
are they
like,
gonna do it? Is Julia
yeah,
Page not gonna be on?
it's gonna be something else, man. It's gonna be very interesting, and there was like real consequences, and that was
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. So this was again, yeah, definitely my favorite issue of the series so far, which has been an excellent series. This is definitely a book that's up for consideration for book of the year
Yeah.
when we get to that.
And best new
Just
series too, for that
yeah,
matter.
right.
But that is enough of what's new, Joe. It is time for you to finally talk about one of the Bone Orchard or Orchard, or Orchid, whatever. I don't know. I think it's
Orchard
Bone. I say
Bone.
Orchard, but part of the Bone Orchard mythos books from Jeff Lemire. What are you talking about today? Finally.
So, so for those watching, you already know what I'm talking about. And if you follow us on Instagram and Twitter,
This is
you
true.
also know what we're talking about. But for those who don't, and for those listening for the first time, I am discussing 10,000 Black Feathers from Image Comics, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Andrea Sorrentino, colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by Steve Wand. And this is a book that you've been dying for me to talk about, and
Yeah.
I've wanted to talk about, but we've had other things come up and whatnot. But now on this last day of October, it being Halloween, it's a perfect day to discuss this book. And so quick synopsis: Trish and Jackie are best friends and avid gamers. But when the line between reality and their fantasy world is blurred by an evil darkness, can they be heroes of their own story? Part of the Bone Orchard mythos. So right away, this book gave me vibes of, well, I wouldn't say, because it gave me vibes of Die, and that is not to make a direct comparison to Die, because that was it's just not an apples to apples comparison. But
Mm, all
we've
time.
we've had some books lately where we've sort of had this like reality and fantasy world sort of crossing over. What was the book that we had the guys on that I missed the interview for?
Oh, Kill Your Darlings.
Kill Your Darlings, right? Like, what I loved about Kill Your Darlings is you've got two very distinct worlds, right? You've
Mhm.
sort of got the this fantasy world that this girl is cooked up, in her head, and then reality, and so we kind of get that here, and I love that kind of storytelling where you sort of get in these blurred lines and reality blurring in with the fantasy, and then just sort of where it takes it, and you know whenever we talk about, like, we talked about Lemire and Sorrentino, that pairing when they do horror, it is like next level stuff, whether it's Gideon Falls, whether it's been anything that they've done with like the Bone Orchard mythos, like this world that they've created, like this sort of books that they're writing for this series. It's been absolutely excellent. Tenement, 10,000 Black Feathers, um just solid stuff. So it's 5 issues. It is collected in trade form, and you know it really revolves around two characters, right? Trish and Jackie. There are other characters that are part of this, especially eventually when you meet the main antagonist, but he's
Mm,
not a like a central character that is the bad guy. It's there. That's, I think, what makes this series so great, is that you have your Jackie dealing with a lot of personal demons of sort of why of sort of leading to revolving around, I should say, the disappearance of her friend and everything else. So like, you're not really like the bad guy. You don't really like you don't get there until that fourth, fifth issue, which I love that
mm,
because there's just the world building, the character, the mystery of what's going on. You're just so engulfed in that, like you don't even like having an antagonist or a bad guy isn't on your radar. You just want to you just
Hmm.
want this person to find their friend, right, and to solve this mystery of what really happened. And then when you finally get to it, it's just like, holy shit, that's fucked up and awesome, at the same time. And I've always sort of talked about with Lemire, like he's got sort of like there's like the two sides of Lemire, like or two styles of Lemire when he's writing books. It's either you get something like Sweet Tooth or May's book or Essex County. You get these books that are deeply personal, that that are gut wrenching, and emotional, and just his understanding of sort of the human psyche is sort of unmatched. And then you've got his horror stuff, which is twisted and dark, and just again like the tandem of him and Sorrentino, when they're together, they can just create just creepy ass imagery. And this is sort of a good combination of both those worlds. It's like those two styles really kind of coming together. Because you with the two characters of Jackie and Trish, they're when you first meet them, they're like middle schoolers, and then they're growing into high schoolers, and sort of he deals with that, you know that sort of teenage angst, that awkwardness, that sort of that phase, of our lives where you're growing. And I think we've all experienced this, where you're in your group of friends, or maybe your best friend, where a lot of things are similar, but you're also very, very different. Where you have one character in Jackie, who is very naive. She's very into fantasy books, writing her books, reading. She wants to create this world. And at first, Trish, who's more of she had a harder time growing up. Her home life isn't the best. They have a lot of personalities. They're both avid readers. They both like fantasy. But when you get to that certain point, it's like one person kind of stays in that same lane, and the other one's like, nope, that's kid shit. I'm gonna party and I'm going to do this. And you've got the one friend that's concerned for, like, we've all seen that dynamic before, right?
Sure.
And he
Relentless.
nails it, and it becomes a central part of the story, right? Exactly, Nick, right? So like we've been there. And then so you get this sort of build, and what's great about the storytelling is we've sort of got these three different sets that we're in, so to speak, right? Where you've got the past, the present, and then the set piece of sort of this fantasy world that you're introduced to, that is sort of a product of Jackie and Trisha's world that they've created, because it's a book that they've been working on together. And each issue gets weirder and darker, with the last two issues just being absolute fucking doozies. And like it's just like I said, it's so well paced. And Sorrentino's art style is ever present here with the abstract panels. But
Hmm.
I'll talk about the art in a moment, because there's something that's done with the colors in this, and the art it's just absolutely blew me away. Um,
Hmm.
but to just give you a little bit of a background, on the characters, like I said, Trish is so I had the two characters uh,
Flip flopped.
flip-flopped, right? So Trish is a foster child when she first meets Jackie. She's an avid reader, writer. She's writing her own fantasy novel. She wants to, and she goes on to become a published author, right? This world that she created when she was a kid, middle school, high school, she sort of grew up, wrote books and stories on that, and became published that way. But she's very haunted. She's haunted by her past. She's haunted by the disappearance of her best friend Jackie. And so the story starts off with her returning to her adopted hometown, because there's something gnawing at her. There's this sort of narrator type voice that is, sort of, you could tell is written in the dialogue is in such a way where it's like it's pulling Jackie in. It's sort of like her subconscious in a way, but it's not good.
Yeah.
you know
So like it could be
yeah,
problematic.
right. And then so Jackie is Trish's best friend. Like I said, she doesn't have the best home life, but she is also an avid reader, is a way to sort of escape what's going on at home. And again, like there's a stark difference between middle school and high school, right? Where once you, whatever it is, you make that jump and you sort of, you friends that kids that you were great friends with for a very, very long time, all of a sudden you don't fucking talk to anymore because they're now hanging out in this social group and you're in that social group. So you start to see that, those dynamics here,
Mm,
at play. And this sort of like has this buildup where yes, they're still friends, but Trish is becoming very worried about Jackie because Jackie is getting a little wild and reckless, and Trish is being overprotective. Jackie then pushes her away, because she's I don't know, put off by it because she just wants to party, and
sure.
then one night she disappears and you don't know what the fuck happened, right? And so, then we're brought back into the present. Why is Jackie here? Why is Trish here? She wants to sort of solve that, that mystery. And there's a lot of things like where you see like 10,000 black feathers. You really don't get why the book is called that until that fourth and fifth issue, right? And
Hmm.
how does it play in the story? And when you finally get that bit of information, you're like, holy shit! So there's a lot of macabre, right? There's a lot of horror elements here, suspenseful elements here, which is absolutely great. So Lemire, keeps you on your toes constantly, and it's a wildly engaging story. The pacing is great, the world building is great, and there's not a lot of characters, which I love because it keeps the story tight, right? You really, it really
Yeah.
revolves around Trish, and then like it's the story of what happened to Jackie. Where is she? Right? Did something happen to her? Is she still alive? Is she dead? You just don't know.
Hmm.
And I love that. And there's a lot of great references to some dark fantasy stories, such as Stephen King's The Dark Tower, which was again like this book that sort of shifted between worlds, right?
Right.
Reality, fantasy, which if you've read it, you know exactly what I mean. And we get to the art, and I talk about it all the time, like Sorrentino's art. It's very abstract, and there's what I loved most about this is you get that traditional classic Sorrentino art where you've got panels that are in the shapes of feathers or whatever abstract fucking design
Wow.
he wants to do. But like I talked about, there's three different sets, if you will. There's the past, the present, and then this future world. And so with Sorrentino, he draws them in three very distinct ways. The past, when they're in middle school and high school, actually has more of a mainstream comic book feel to his art, which is never how you would describe Sorrentino's art,
Huh.
right? The present
That's
day is more of your classic Sorrentino gritty style, and the fantasy world is kind of fucked up.
That's interesting. Before you go any further, that's like not the specific of like the past feeling like a mainstream comic from back then. Like the different styles, as much as it's one artist on this, that's something that we have in common with the two books we're talking about today. Obviously, talk about it more with mine, but please continue.
And then you combine that with Dave Stewart's colors, which are also brilliant. Like, so in the past, right? It's bright, it's vivid, it's full of life, right? The present day is dark and bleak and feels void of life. And then the fantasy world is bleak. It's not quite as dark as the present day, but it's got more of that dystopian sort of feel to it. So, like, I thought that was a really great way to sort of differentiate between the three sort of time periods, if you will, or the sets, if you will. So you just combine. I mean, this is an absolute home run. Everything that these two have done, minus that one book that they did about the monkey and the dog in space. I can't remember the name of it. That one, I
Primordial.
think Primordial. I think that was just over my head. I'm not smart enough for that book. But like I love when these two get together, and the anything they've done in the Bone Orchard mythos has been absolutely fantastic. This one was excellent. When Tenement's done, I will be talking about that one as well.
Mhm.
But like, man, psychological horror, thriller, mystery, fantasy, like it's got it all. It's twisted. It can be vicious at times. It's fantastic.
Yeah, this does sound really awesome. And like the first thing that jumps out to me is, do you think whenever we revisit our horror rankings again, which I would imagine maybe it'll be next year, maybe it'll be in a couple years, who knows? Do you think this will be in that conversation just on your end?
Top 10, I think it falls just outside of that. But I think we talked about sort of expanding our list,
We did
and
off air, yeah.
if we expand our list, it would be on there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah,
that seems like a less of a yeah, based on just what you're saying here. And I really like the whole concept of, and maybe this is just because of my own personal experience, but like obviously like the two of us, like as much as we've gone away from comics at times and come back to it in like full force, like we are still like we have a lot of ways where we're both like still kids at heart. But I know like, and I've always been still a kid at heart in a lot of different ways, but like I definitely had friends who like just were over some of the stuff, and like I very much like this resonates with me big time,
yeah,
and I would think that would resonate with a lot of just comic book readers in general because of the stigma that comes with the medium, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. This was a very like relatable, like the relationship between Jackie and Trish is very relatable. It was either you and your best friend, or a good friend, or someone you like.
Hmm.
Like it's gonna like that's the thing. Lemire resonates
Yeah,
in so many ways, and this is like this is the first time where I felt like he really combined his two styles together really well.
that's interesting.
Like Gideon Falls, like you have great characters, and like the main character in that, like he's emotionally gutting, but it's a much different way, right? Like, compared to like Essex County, or Maze Book, or things of that nature, right? But this was just two great characters, a really great fucking horror. Like, it depends on how you define horror.
Uh,
I would say more maybe. I don't know. This isn't like straight up horror, like as you would
yeah.
define it, but it definitely has those elements, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. I'm very excited to check this one out. And as I'm thinking about this too, like you've talked about Lemire, I think the most of any writer on the show, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Um, I'd be curious if we ended up some point like it would take a little bit of work because there's stuff you haven't talked about on here, and stuff that maybe neither of us have read. But like, what are his like top 10 best books? Like, if that's something we could do, like
Mm.
through whatever point in time. But that'd be a tough one to do. I know it would be like picking between your. I mean, you only have one kid, but I mean, if you had two kids, picking between your two kids, you know what I mean? I feel like that's how it'd be for you ranking those.
Yeah, it depends on which one actually gave me candy on Halloween. You know, Prime Prime ranks his kids, right?
Oh,
You know,
that's right.
so,
He does.
yeah.
He does. But this sounds friggin' outstanding, and obviously sounds very much like it's a movie because it's 5 issues and done.
So I
Um,
was thinking about this because we always ask each other this question, and so like what Lemire and Sorrentino are doing with the Bone Orchard mythos, I could see being done like what they do with American Horror Story. Each season, like
oh,
have a season be 10,000 Blackfellas, have a season be Tenement, have a season be right. Tell it in 5-6 episodes. Boom, you could do it. Bang. I think it would be excellent.
oh, that's a really, really
I mean,
good
this could
idea.
this could be a movie, right?
Yeah, but
Because
I
it
hear
was
you.
5 issues, but like you could probably make, you could definitely take this world, expand it a little bit, and get 4, 5, 6 episodes out of
That's
it.
brilliant because like that's just brilliant in the sense of like I bet you there's not many properties, especially with like if in the indie department where you can necessarily do that. Like it's usually when we talk about like these our books, it's clear one or the other. Like
Yeah,
and there's like it could be or it's like it should be this, but I could see it being that. Like that sounds amazing. Like it could be either one or the other just as easily.
yeah.
That's wild. Wow. Okay. All right. We're gonna shift over to my book. And we're gonna shift over to Boom Studios. Actually, this is one that did I steal this one on you? I can't. No, you offered this. This is one of your peace offerings that you gave to me from friend of the show, Cullen Bone. Which actually, this is probably this is one of the few times this has happened. We interviewed him about this book on the show, but we didn't get a chance because I think the book wasn't lettered at the time. So got interviewed him for it and heard about it, but you haven't had a chance to read a single friggin' page of this thing, correct?
Correct, because when it came out, it was, I think the first issue was just coming out, so he didn't want to be spoilery about it. We hadn't read it, but we were able to interview him about it, just sort of talking about the premise and things like that. Because we talked
Yeah.
about, I think, a whole smorgasbord of books
Yes,
during that
yes.
chat.
Every time whenever we have Colin on, there seems to be a lot of stuff to talk about. The man is always busy, but yeah. So he's writing this. The artist is Leo Max, the primary artist, I should say. Colors by Jason Wardy, again primary color and or colorist, and then letters by Ed Dukeshire. So the first 4 issues are in a collected trade paperback. Now came out in early October. Perfect timing from Boom. As we mentioned earlier, issue 6 is out this week. Right now, when I look on League of Comic Geeks, I'm only seeing 8 issues. So, I mean, the way the story's going right now, maybe it could wrap up there, but maybe it goes a little bit longer. Who knows? As for the synopsis, what ghost stories do ghosts tell, and what can they tell us about ourselves? An estranged daughter and her father wander into a haunted land. They have only the restless spirits, each with its own story to tell, as company along the way. After a deadly accident of which they are the only survivors, Lucas and Harmony Agate can see the dead, an overwhelming amount of deceased, and all of their own warnings, cries for help, and malevolence alike. But Lucas and Harmony aren't the only ones with this ability. There are other nearly deads, some of which have malicious motivations. Now, as for credits too, I do want to mention that this includes 6 other penciler artist teams. Some of them it's the artist and the penciler and the colorist is the same individual. In the first trade, we have Brian Hurt, Bill Crabtree, Dan Luckert, Vanessa R. Del Rey, Mattia Iacono, and then Jonas Scharf, who we've been talking about recently because of Dark X-Men. And again, that was Cullen's partner on Basilisk, which is also a Boom book, which I talked about on the show. And I will get into those other artists being involved in a moment. But as mentioned, Harmony is the daughter in this situation. Then we have Lucas. Lucas is the town preacher, and there are other characters in the mix, but these are in. It seems like some have a chance to take on a larger role, but they haven't really. It's just been these two at the center of it all, with maybe one other character kind of looming in the background. But when it comes to like what's with these two, what blew my mind most is kind of something similar to what you were talking about with Lemire on 10,000 Black Feathers, the relationship and how it's done here. Cullen does an outstanding job with this father-daughter relationship, because we have so Lucas is this town preacher, but he's got this daughter who's like a rebel without a cause. Love Harmony. She's great, but something that like you kind of start to see it a little bit. Well, we see it in big ways with Lucas after he becomes like one of these nearly deads, where he starts seeing spirits. He kind of starts to lose his cool a little bit and doesn't handle it all that well. Whereas Harmony, she's like 15 years old. It seems like she's rattled by it, but at the same time, she handles it the seemingly the right way, where Lucas can't seem to figure it out. But then there are other like little things that we see that's like, huh, you're kind of like you are an asshole or such a tough dad on Harmony, because you see a lot of you in her, because you got little things in there that start popping up in the course of the story. And it's just, to me, that is one of that's actually probably the greatest strength of this whole story. Like is how Cullen writes those two, and how much resentment Harmony has towards Lucas. And it's like, even where he's at moments where he seems to kind of Lucas seems to take his foot off the gas, because he's just worried about dealing with this whole large issue that him and his daughter now have to deal with. Harmony's still like, nah, man, like you've been a dick one too many times. I can't. You're like, we're not cool. There's nothing that's going to make it us cool. So I think that's something that can be easily like not done well, especially when you have this traumatic experience. Like, it's so easy. It's like, oh, like we got to get through this together. We got to pull each other up and get through it and be better for it and so on. But No, like that's not what it is at all. And that bears itself out over the 6 issues that have been out so far. And it's very, but the first 2 issues are very much character driven, really trying to establish Lucas and Harmony, both together and separately. And then by the end, like the end of the first issue, you get an idea of like what it is they're dealing with. By the end of the That's the end of the first issue. By the end of the second issue, then there's like a development in the plot, or you kind of like have an idea of what the plot is going to be. But I love that we talked about like Kill Your Darlings too, where you're so invested with these characters at the end of the second issue, and now the plot's like you have an idea of what the plot is, but now it's like really kick into overdrive by the end of the second issue, and I just love that. It makes it's just the investment for me is really elevated when writers do that. Now, one thing when we first heard about this, where I was raving about the concept for this series was this is what the ghost stories told by ghosts, which I thought was just a brilliant idea, and I have enjoyed that very very much in the course of this. But I enjoy the main story more. It's been awesome. Again, it's all because of what's going on with Harmony and Lucas. I just think that dynamic is really cool. And then I didn't, Cullen talked to us again, like you said, Joe. He didn't want to spoil things. He talked to us about them getting the abilities, but there's there's like direct ramifications that you would think about with that, where it's a burden to take on. You're seeing dead people, like that's not an easy thing to deal with, but there's this other thing that's starting to loom in the background, and again at the second issue you first learn about it just a smidge, and then it takes over issues 3 through 6, and it's like, oh, this is some pretty bad shit. So like the ghost stories have all been good. I've really enjoyed them, but the larger story like starts out with character development, then really like it's like, oh, like I wouldn't have seen this coming as being a problem for these characters. So I love the main story. As for the art, Leo Max does some awesome stuff. I mean, like the spirits are one thing that really stand out to me because they're just so like wispy and everything and windy. And until they're not, until like, sometimes they get a little pissed off and they become significantly more solid. And Leo Max does a really good job of like transitioning those characters both fluidly sometimes or like right on a dime. And then we get like with the ghosts in the mix and some of their stories that they're telling, we see some pretty monstrous stuff, and it gets pretty freaking gross. I'm thinking of actually the of more in here right now, Joe. The first issue, the first ghost story you hear, has a little Ribbon Queen vibe
Oh,
to it.
fuck
So
off.
not quite to that grotesqueness, but like it's like they're like this that's their cousins, the concepts at least that you see.
I'm real worried about Ribbon Queen. It's
I don't blame you.
I'm
Well,
not
this
look
is
no offense, AWA. I'm not looking forward to reading that one.
but the thing that's big here too is, and I cut you off before on this earlier when you brought up how Sorrentino is doing different art styles in 10,000 Black Feathers, where you have past, present day in the fantasy world. Here, we're bringing it like Cullen's bringing in, or Boom. I'm not sure who exactly made the decision. I feel like it was Cullen at least leading the charge, especially when we see Jonas Scharf in the mix. But they all have their own art style, and then we have different colorists too, where it very much feels like it's this flashback. I mean, they're all flashbacks. It's a flashback, but it still feels like it's in this world. They're not. Their styles are different than Leo Max, but it's still like it's done the right way in this situation. It's definitely something that I feel like could be like, oh, we're gonna go from this story, and then like we're gonna have this huge like let me put it this way: if you have Leo Max doing this, and then like Kudransky comes in and does like one of the ghost stories, that would throw me off. Like that, I would like they both do a good job on their own, but they don't seem like artists whose like styles would like intertwine for a story like this. This cast of characters that we have here, they do a good job of making it its own story, but at the same time, still keeping it like it's part of the larger thing that Cullen and Leo Max are and Jason Wardy are doing.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. I was very intrigued when we talked to Colin about it. So now that you talked about it, I can fucking read it. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, easy one to catch up
No
on
one
right
knows
now
it.
too, because again, that trade came out earlier in the month. The fifth issue came out in September, so maybe you can find that back issue for those of you, looking to catch up on this. And again, sixth issue out this week, so get after it with Ghostlore. All right, that is it. I do want to mention that I said we might be doing a mainline episode next time you and I convene, Joe, but that will not be the case because for the first time as a married man, I'm going to have to do a solicit with you. So, because we have not done one of those
Oh
in a
yeah.
long, long
We
time. Because
haven't, and today was November 1st, so we'll do that. We'll do that next. The solicit won't cover the first week of November, obviously.
oh shoot, yeah, that's right. Well, it's Halloween. Whatever, we
Yeah,
had to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
So confusing
we
when
gotta
the first
spooky.
is on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's
So
yeah.
we'll
Sorry.
cover weeks 2 through, the end of the month next week, which
Mhm.
will be great. And then oh shit, it could be December by the time we get back to it. Maybe we don't get to a trade this year.
You might have jinxed it. And in December, man, like we're gonna have like we do specials at this time of year.
Yeah,
We should be
yeah.
doing our
Fuck.
gift. I mean, we haven't talked about it, but we have our gift guide that we like to do
Yeah,
usually, and then we have our annual that we're definitely going to be doing.
yeah.
Because you've been doing all the legwork for both of us on that front.
I'll
And
I'll put it together for you. And I was thinking about this the other day. I'll probably put it in like an Excel sheet and I'll just fucking list them all.
yeah, you are the best. Have I ever told you that?
Well, if there's one thing I am, Nicholas, it is organized.
This is very true.
Um,
It's very
that
true.
might be the only thing I am.
Yeah,
I
well,
am I am neurotically organized when it comes to this stuff.
you are very organized, and I appreciate it very much. I like it when I feel like I'm not the organized one because I always feel like I am, and it's always like I don't feel like I'm that organized. But anyways, all right. So we got a solicit coming up, but either way, until next week, Joe, stay sexy.
Yeah, you know it, baby.